Forget about bourbon of the year. Could this be the bourbon of the decade? Today we're diving into Russell's Reserve 15. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. Well, I could not be more excited to be diving into Russell's Reserve 15 year and doing a review for you guys. I am so happy that I acquired a bottle of this. In many ways, this has become many people's ultimate unicorn bottle of 2024. So many people have already reviewed it. I am kind of late to the game there, but the hype is generating big time. Some are calling it, of course, their whiskey of the year contender, but then also best bourbon of the decade so far maybe, or maybe the best thing Wild Turkey's ever released. I've seen some wild claims. I want to see what I think and dive into it and review it for you guys. Why so much hype? Well, the bottle and its stats kind of speak for itself. You've got Wild Turkey, one of the most respected distilleries. You've got Jimmy and Eddie Russell putting their name on this, certifying it as their highest quality stuff. 15 years old. It's the oldest age statement from the Russells line we've ever seen. They've been doing the Russells 13 for a couple of years now, and that has been a unicorn bottle for a lot of people. So you add 2 more years of age, and so many people are going to want to hunt this one down. Proof point here, you've got 117.2 proof. It's non-chill filtered. That isn't actually barrel strength. They might have added a little bit of water here, but probably not much. In terms of pricing, that's where you talk about a big blow to the wallet. It is $250 MSRP. You may see it marked up in some places. I was extremely fortunate to be in the right place at the right time when a Kroger near me was doing a pop-up sale with some amazing bottles, and I got this for the $250. So is it worth that? We'll see. My sense is, I'm willing to pay that for something that gets that much hype and has a 15-year age statement from a brand I really like. But we'll see if it really lives up to all of the hype. One last interesting thing to note here is that Jimmy Russell, who is a legendary master distiller throughout his career, didn't really do much that was older than 12 years old. He thought bourbon was kind of in that 8 to 12-year-old range, and that's where it's best. His son Eddie has kind of gone a little bit further, gone to the 13, now the 15. And it's interesting to see that Jimmy Russell has also signed his name on this bottle, meaning he thinks it's great, as somebody who doesn't particularly think aged bourbons are the best profile. So we'll see how good it is. Is it worth its $250? Is it really the best bourbon of the year? Not just that, but bigger claims like best bourbon of the decade. Let's dive in. Let's see how it goes on the nose, palate, and finish. Okay, so on the nose, Russell's 15. Let's dive in. Oh man. It's glorious. Big oak in the best way possible. Kind of a perfect level of oak. Perfect maturity for the oak. Huge cherry, Luxardo, dark cherry. Tons of vanilla bean, almost like vanilla ice cream. And then there's a peanut brittle, creamy peanut butter strain in there, wrapping around it. You could argue there's some darker berry fruits too, like a blackberry, raspberry thing going on. It smells really good. That's an understatement. It smells amazing. It just smells like perfectly matured whiskey in a lot of ways. All right, I don't want to sing its praises too much before tasting it on the palate. Let's go in on the palate and see how that holds up. Cheers. Oh man. It all translates. Brown sugar. That is the first big note. Like so much maple syrup, brown sugar power at the front end of the palate. Then you get this oak and spice characteristic that comes in. Very subtle spice, but then the oak is just gorgeous. A gorgeous well-rounded, mature oak. It's not super funky. It's just so beautiful. And then you get that big Luxardo cherry richness toward the back end of the palate. And for me, what's sticking around is a little bit of that cherry, but then some of that orange citrus, a bit of that kicks up, and then the big peanut brittle and oak are lingering for a long time with some of that vanilla bean. It's delicious. Okay, I gotta go in for a second sip now that I've got it on the palate and see if we can pick out some more flavors. Cheers. Yep. So much of that rich cherry on that sip for me. Adding in a layer of a little bit tobacco and kind of a leather on the back end. But the oak is like mouth watering. Having this experience where you sip it, you get the big wave of brown sugar, that cherry, then that oak kicks in, the peanut brittle, the orange citrus is really there now, especially on the back end. But it's like my mouth is trying to process it and my cheeks feel so coated, and it's just kind of continuing to make my mouth water, make my senses feel this bourbon. It's really, really good. All right, one more sip here. We'll think about the whole whiskey and we'll really focus on the finish as well. Cheers. The oak is building for me, but in a pleasant way. It's not that drying. I'm not having a super dry experience with this. It feels syrupy. The vanilla keeps it nice and light and creamy on the back too. But I'm also getting this plum experience now, a darker fruit, like really going dark there. That cherry is still there. But then you got these light pops of like an orange citrus that comes in. Again, that vanilla bean. And then the big star of the show is just the oak brown sugar core to this thing that is just monstrously good. Like, so much flavor. I try to think about flavor as sort of a dial, you know, or on a scale. And I like to think about bourbons that I've had, like, is that a 7 out of 10 on the flavor scale? Yeah, somewhere in there. It's kind of nice, well-rounded flavors, but not popping a ton. Is that an 8 out of 10? Yeah, that's pretty dang good. Is that a 9 out of 10? Well, you're getting excellent. Is that a 10 out of 10? That's one of the best things I've ever tasted. This is a, no doubt, 10 out of 10. Like waves of flavor that come in. But it's not in your face in the same way that I've tasted Russell's 13 or some other higher proof bourbons that just kind of knock you back. It's not like that. It just kind of washes over your palate and envelops it with a little subtle spice, but everything else turned up to 10. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to criticize this one. I don't think I'm going to really try to find any notes that I don't enjoy or talk about what I think could be better here. It just feels like the type of whiskey that is so well put together that doesn't really deserve me trying to nitpick it. I'm just loving it. I'm just experiencing it and enjoying every drop. This bottle is special. I know I'm adding to the hype. I know that. I know it's hard to hear that if you haven't gotten a bottle or you're chasing one, like that I'm just adding to the hype train, right? But it's real, man. It's really, really good whiskey. Actually, that's an understatement. Again, it's not really good whiskey. It is excellent whiskey. It is superb whiskey. It is amazing whiskey. I am thoroughly impressed. It is hard for me to think of anything in my collection that's better than this. I am very interested to see how this does in the Whiskey of the Year bracket. I put it at the top of my list. This is the 1 seed of all 1 seeds. This might be the undefeated 1 seed that kind of comes into the tournament. Everybody expects it to win. Maybe it gets upset, but right now it is looking good for Russell's 15 in terms of bringing everything that you want, or everything that I want at least, in a great bourbon. Wow. Yeah, it's that good. It's worth the $250, that's for sure. Would I pay over that? Maybe up to like $300. I've never personally thought it was really worth it to spend over 300 bucks on any whiskey, so that's kind of my cap right now. But this is worth the 250, every penny of it for sure. It's one of the best things I've ever tasted, if not the best. Okay, I'm hyping it up, I'm talking its praises. It's beautiful, it's well balanced, it's so flavorful. Let me know in the comments below, have you tasted it? What do you think? If you have tasted it, is it as good as I'm saying it is? If you haven't gotten your hands on one, are you still hunting it? Are you hoping to get one? Would love to hear and start a conversation about that in the comments below as well. I think that's going to wrap it up, everybody. Has my huge recommendation. Apparently they did make potentially as many as 80,000 bottles of this. So if you haven't gotten one yet, don't give up hope yet. I do think it's very possible to go out and get one given the quantity that might be out there. So maybe it'll continue to roll out to certain markets and you'll get a chance. I'm so grateful, just so grateful that I was able to get one and taste it and review it for you guys. Till I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey. If you find a Russell's 15, potentially don't pass it up because it might be the best whiskey I've ever had. And cheers.